Senator Ted Cruz is under a lot of fire right now because he and his family got caught at the airport trying to take a family vacation to Cancun, all while Texas was freezing over. And you got a bunch of snowfall in Texas, record low temperatures, millions were without power and running water, at least at the height of the storm. I'm not 100% sure where the numbers sit now. I do think they're getting better. But regardless, the optics are absolutely horrible. It makes Senator Ted Cruz look like he was trying to go out the back door all while his constituents were in the freezing cold. So we're going to get into his particular situation and my thoughts on it a little bit later in the video. What I want to do now is actually address the Texas situation itself, kind of show you some photos and talk about how everything's being politicized about it. So that's what we're going to do right now. And you can see you have an indoor ceiling fan with a ton of icicles on it. And you're probably wondering, well, how does that happen? So obviously you're having a lot of pipes bursting in Texas. And the reason why pipes burst is because when water freezes, it expands, and then you still have the pressure being built up, from the water behind it. So obviously the pressure continues to build. Eventually it has to pop, and then you have leaking water where you don't want leaking water, and then it's cold enough. So that's how you get those icicles. So the reason I show this is because people are politicizing it. Already they're talking about how, well, Texas is all about deregulations and you need more regulations. The free market sucks. We got to save people with more government regulations, right? More government overreach. And it's like, take a step back, relax for a second. For one moment in your life, instead of trying to pander, instead of trying to reaffirm your beliefs by only looking at a small set of facts and then just running with it, try and sit back and look at the whole picture. So my father is a carpenter, so he knows a little bit about, plumbing and, people who do pipe work and stuff like that. And the reason I say that is because, he's obviously worked with, he's in the trades. So he's worked with other people, that do that line of work. So we're up north, right? We're in New Jersey. So typically in the northern states, it's in, like the codes within, like when you build structures and whatnot, the plumbing and stuff like that, well, it has to be within the insulation, it has to be insulated. So that way it's, resistant to the cold, a little bit of a barrier, if you will. Whereas in Texas, well, it's traditionally a pretty warm state. And this is a once in a blue moon style event. If you think about it, this is the lowest temperatures in the past 30 years. So they probably don't have that in their blueprints, if you will, right? It's probably not necessarily a concern. Hey, if something happens once every 30 years, it's kind of like, do you really need to worry about where the plumbing is, if it's in or outside of the insulation? So that's probably what you're seeing right here, and that's why you're getting all the frozen pipes. So again, I'm just kind of like, instead of politicizing it, okay, maybe Texas sits there and says, hey, you know what? This might happen in the future. Maybe we should make sure buildings have the plumbing insulated. Okay, easy fix. Done. Stop trying to win political points over, right? But that's just, we're starting small. We're going to work our way big. This is the next photo that I see circulating the interwebs. So everyone's talking about the power grid. Well, why did the power grid shut down? Was it a failure of the solar and gas industry? Was it a failure of the wind and the solar industry? Somebody's at fault. We have to blame someone, point our fingers. So in this photo, you can see you have all these different interconnects. So you have the two big ones, the Western and the Eastern, right? And that's, big government regulation, and it works in Texas. You got to get on board because look, Texas is all by itself, and that's why it failed. That's kind of the gist of what I'm hearing from a lot of people. So again, it's kind of like, we're 2 or 3 days into this. Do you really know? Do you really know what caused the rolling blackouts and all the power outages? What made the system fail? No one really knows, right? It's going to take a little bit of time, investigations to see what it was that happened. And I hope we actually can one day learn why everything happened the way that it did. So that way Texas can obviously improve and make it to where they don't fall to their knees whenever they get snow and cold temperatures. And also, too, so everyone trying to have their biases heard, they can all, get lost as well. And the reason why I included this particular photo is because everyone has included their bias along with it. They've said the gas and the oil industry failed, this and that, but they haven't included this last photo. And this is why it's important to address it, which is the frozen turbines. So I'm obviously not an expert, but this is something that is worthy of being talked about. Because, yeah, this is 100% true. You had those big old wind turbines. Well, they were frozen. They couldn't move. So you probably saw photos where they had to have helicopters fly out and have, some sort of defrosting, mechanism on the bottom and, to defrost them so that way they could get up and running once again. So point I'm kind of driving at is everyone that's on the left hasn't said anything about this in particular. And that's where I kind of say, party foul, that's kind of your bias is showing. Like, you can't address, like if you're not able to criticize your own side, to me, you lose a lot of credibility. And don't worry, I'm going to throw it back on the other side too. I don't think you can just necessarily blame the wind turbines 100% without blaming, other people within the industry. Maybe someone did screw up within the oil and the gas industry. But that's why I'm trying to say, before we just launch accusations and jump to conclusions, let's actually try and sit back, not throw political bias in everybody's face, and let's really try and maybe learn from this. I think Texas can get better, and the rest of the nation can kind of learn from, their potential mistake, or if it wasn't the state of Texas, whoever's mistake it was, right? That's just kind of my thoughts on that. You can let me know how you feel. But let's get back to Ted Cruz, because this is, I guess, a little more of the focal point of the video, the co-focal point, if you will. So I've already said optics look horrible. Whether he was actually going on a full vacation or not, because by the way, he had said, I think it was when he came back from Cancun or something like that, or he booked the flight back, somebody was asking him, and he said, well, the Texas schools were closed. I forget if he mentioned Texas itself, but he was saying schools were closed for my kids, and they asked if they could take a trip to Cancun with friends, and like a good dad, I just wanted to take the flight back there. I was coming back, whatever. Whether that's true or not, I don't necessarily know. Like I said, optics are horrible, so it doesn't really matter if it's true or not. It's kind of like you can say whatever it is you want. Everyone already has their preconceived notion. But what I want to share now is, well, let's talk about Ted Cruz and him being a senator. First and foremost, the Senate itself was actually in recess this week, so it was kind of like, well, what else do you want the guy to do? You want him to go to Texas? Because he actually spends a lot of time in D.C., so it's like, what do you want him to do? Sit in Texas and freeze? Like, as a state senator, he represents his people, and he takes their, concerns, their voices to the Senate floor in Washington. That's his job. So when it comes to restoring the power grid and, stuff like that, it's not really his job. It's really not. You can make it fall back on the governor of Texas, the many mayors that they have and all the, the individual communities and stuff like that. And then really you got to place the blame on, who's running the particular companies that, are in control of their power grid. I don't care if it's oil, if it's gas, if it's solar, if it's wind, they're the ones that have to answer the questions. So I don't really feel a whole lot of outrage towards them, because I'm like, what did everyone want him to do? Go hand out blankets for, photo opportunities? Because that pisses me off to no end when politicians, they look for natural disasters or they look for emergencies, state emergencies, and they say, oh, I'm going to fly there and I'm going to make myself look so good. I'm going to give everyone hugs. Everyone's going to love me. Approval rating is going to shoot through the roof. Here's a thought. You don't need to be there, because your approval rating should already be good, because everyone says you do a good job in Washington. You do a good job wherever else we send you. So I don't necessarily like when politicians use the photo opportunities. I already mentioned, right? One, because it is a photo opportunity. But two, when these guys or gals fly back in or drive back in, it just makes more chaos, because you already probably have roads that are blocked. People are struggling, trying to just get back on their feet. And then what? You're going to get somebody in a shiny suit. You're probably blocking roads because you got to have security detail and stuff like that. Like, just stay away. You can do plenty of good by staying away. You can send resources in. Let the important people actually get there. You don't need to have your photo opportunity. That's just kind of my particular take on this. So I don't care if it's, Senator Ted Cruz. I don't care if it's the President of the United States. I don't think that they should be going to areas of disaster. Let them get back on their feet. You can send them all the supplies. You could potentially grab them. And then when they get back on their feet, then if you want to go down and say, hey, did you guys make it through? You all good? What else do you need? Hey, more power to you. That's just kind of my particular take. I'm like, what do you want the guy to do? Go there and freeze his ass off? That's just, again, that's just my particular take. I don't know. I can't force myself to be outraged by something that I'm not outraged by. That's let me know if you disagree with me. I can only say it for so much longer. Let me know where your thoughts are on that particular topic. But that's really it in terms of the Texas situation. Definitely let me know if you think everything's being politicized. Let me know if you have an idea as to what caused all these rolling blackouts and all the power outages with Ted Cruz. Let me know if you think he was definitely making a bad move going to Cancun. Let me know if you don't care. Let me know if you wanted him to fly back and freeze his ass off. Am I right? Am I wrong? Tell me. Leave me a comment. But I appreciate you checking out the video. Go enjoy your weekend, and I hope to see you again on Monday.